Good morning, lovelies. Let's talk about pride. Jesus, coffee. It's going to be a tough next couple days. I'm walking through a really tough season right now. Pastor Rutt was used so beautifully by God yesterday to prick my heart with conviction on the Bema seat. We were talking about the Bema seat, which is the judgment seat of Christ. Now, the Bema seat is not the white throne of judgment, guys. The Bema seat is where believers of Christ will be judged for their works. So our works will go into a testing fire, not the fire of hell. We'll go into a testing and purifying fire. When our works go into that fire, they will either be consumed because they weren't done with pure heart, or they weren't good works, or they'll survive that fire and they'll come out because they were good works. Good works are things that are done with a pure heart, pure intention, not for recognition of self, recognition of, I'll give you an example of a bad work. You see these social media guys that go around and they give money to these homeless, but they're doing it with their cameras. They're doing it with their cell phones, and they're doing it with cameras. They're doing that for recognition. They're doing that for self. They're not doing that for love of God. And I'll tell you why that's such a pinprick for me to the heart. Because these guys, God tells us that, Jesus tells us the left hand shouldn't know what the right hand is doing. Right? When we give, the left hand should not know what the right hand is doing. Meaning we give in secrecy. We love on others in secrecy. Pure heart. Not doing it for self-recognition. Not running around going, man, I saw this homeless guy and I gave him $100. Man, God prompted me to give him $100. Man, you're so awesome. That's so cool of you. Good job. That's the reward you're going to get. That's the reward you're going to earn and get. Is that reward you're going to get from man. When we do things in secrecy, we get our reward in heaven. The Father rewards us in heaven. Tells us to build up our riches in heaven. So, why do I say all of that? I say all of that to say that the pinprick on my heart was, and just laying myself wide open, is there are times I catch myself looking at how many views video got. How many viewed the story? How many clicks did I get on a video? How many subscribers are on the YouTube page? And even saying that hurts, because that's recognition of self. That's not God glorifying at all. These videos, what I do, what He called me to do. Sorry, Lord, there you go, pride again. I. Pride is an eye disease. What God called me to do in doing these videos was for His glory and His purpose. Along the way, somehow my pride stepped in and started looking at how many views, how many clicks, how many likes, how many subscribes. That's my pride. It was pride stepping in. I want to read through a Stuart Scott. It's called From Pride to Humility, because it's what I'm walking through right now. I'm walking through valley of pride toward small town called humility. Along the way, I have this big monster cliff face in my way. It's called pride. I can handle it one of two ways. I can try and climb it on my own, which I won't succeed. Or I can trust God and turn to God and go, pride, you see God? You see how big he is? You're in so much trouble. Or I can look at that cliff face and go, God, do you see how big that thing is? I can't get over that. No. The first one is the right one. Pride, do you see how big my God is? You're in so much trouble. That's the right perspective. Because only God can get me over that. God can handle that problem. I can't handle him. He can. And when I believe he can, is when he gets glorified through that. When I put my faith in him, he can. That's when he gets glorified through that. It's not about me. It's about him. So I want to read through the first paragraph of From Pride to Humility because it's just so powerful. It's probably safe to say that humility is the one character quality that will enable us to be all Christ wants us to be. We cannot come to God without it. We cannot love God supremely without it. We cannot be an effective witness for Christ without it. We cannot love others and serve others without it because it's an I disease. We cannot lead in a godly way without it. We cannot communicate properly without it. We cannot resolve conflict without it. We cannot deal with the sin of others rightly without it. We especially cannot resist sin without it. In short, we must embrace and live out humility in order to truly live and be who God means for us to be. It is for this reason that God exhorts or lifts us up through Paul. Listen to this. This is through Ephesians 4. This is verses 1 and 2. Therefore I, the prisoner of the Lord, implore you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling with which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness. And that's just the first page, guys. I'm going to be walking through this. You cannot have humility where pride exists. You can't. Pride is actually the opposite of humility. And you know it's one of the most loathed sins in God's sight. Matter of fact, Proverbs 16:5 actually says, everyone who is proud in heart is an abomination to the Lord. Assuredly, he will not be unpunished. Pinprick right in the heart. Conviction. Obviously, this is a season of growth because God called me to come to him and say, we need to handle this. This is a problem and we need to address it. I forgive you of the sin because we nailed your pride to the cross with Jesus. But we need to address it. We need to get through this valley and get to humility. Because you can't serve me properly without it. So, it's going to be a long walk. Hopefully you guys come on this journey with me, and hopefully that this reaches somebody and helps somebody, because just in the dig this morning of going through the first 10 minutes, which took me 40 minutes after taking notes, in this audio I'm going through about pride, going through pride to humility, we're going to trust in God that He walks us through this valley and gets us over that cliff face. Good morning, Tara. You are so welcome. I hope you guys come on this journey with me, and I hope that God leads, and I pray that He leads and helps somebody through pride and gets to that small town called humility, because there's riches in that small town called humility. It's called a godly life. So I love you so much, and I know He loves you beyond. So we'll be back tomorrow with whatever Dad wants to talk about, because these videos are His, not mine. They're His. I love you.